Good afternoon. I'm George LATIMER, Westchester County Executive. It is Wednesday, June 24th, and we're here for our 2 o'clock coronavirus update. I'm joined by our Director of Operations, Joan McDonald, who will be speaking on one of our topics today, and our Director of Economic Development, Bridget Gibbons. I'm going to start out with the numbers as I usually do, since that's what some people tune in for. Give you the chance to tune in and tune out, if that's your preference. Westchester County continues to show the diminution in the spread of the coronavirus through today, and that is a consistent diminution that's going on now for the better part of 2 months. As of today, we show 521 active cases of coronavirus. That is down 25 cases from yesterday when we reported 546 cases. The day before, we reported 557 cases, so there's a continuing reduction. A week ago today, we had 694 active cases. 2 weeks ago, 890 active cases. 3 weeks ago, 1,174 active cases, just 3 weeks ago, in the beginning of the month of June. So we're seeing a definite reduction in the number of cases. The amount of testing that we're showing continues to grow. Our testing total is 244,355 COVID tests. That represents 24%, slightly over 24% of the population of Westchester County that's been tested for COVID-19. And the percentage now of all those that are tested that have come up positive is in the low teens. We're at a point where 85% of all these people tested have tested negative. And then this number that we have of active cases represents about 15% of the total. So that is a good sign that we continue to see a reduction in the spread of the virus. And that's important because as we have proceeded over the last few weeks, we have opened up elements of the society. From our position in county government, we've controlled our recreation, and we've opened up certain activities, which we've talked about. There was a concern that that might add to the spread. The governor has authorized through phase 1 and phase 2 and now into phase 3 the opening of certain elements of the society. Outdoor dining. Now we have indoor dining to complement outdoor dining. Retail stores are open. We have personal care stores open now. All of that is happening, but within Westchester County, a continued diminution in the spread of the virus based on the statistics that are provided to us by the state. We are a portion of the Hudson Valley region, the largest portion, 42%, but the region as a whole is enjoying the same diminution, and Westchester is part of that region. We had no deaths overnight last night for COVID. This is the fourth night over the last 2 weeks or so that we've had no deaths. We've had some nights with a single or death or two. Every death is a tragedy, but to have a night without a death, to have a couple of nights like that is another sign that we're hopefully are heading in the right direction. Our last hospitalization number is from 48 hours ago, where we showed that there were 88 people that were hospitalized for COVID. The hospitalization numbers are a little late in reporting to us, so we're always a day or two behind on those. But that number shows a diminution. The 88 number that goes back 2 days ago compares to a week prior to that of 112, the week prior to that 160, the week prior to that 233. And so the most recent number, 88 hospitalized for COVID. All of that is very good news. We still have the Westchester County Center set aside as a hospital for backup purposes. It's obviously not required to be used now during this pandemic spread. If there is a second wave, and there's no way that we're going to know that, medical science professionals will have to identify that for us. But if we do see a second wave, then we will see that second wave knowing that we've got the backup potential for hospital services that should keep us ahead of the game. Some of our neighbors in other parts of the country are now experiencing what we experienced in late March and early April. And as they go through that, and we obviously wish them, that the best, that they'll be able to conquer, as we have to this point, the spread of the contagion, that they're suffering from not having enough hospital beds, not having enough PPE and things that we have already gone through. If there isn't a second wave, then we'll be relaxed and happy, but until we have a vaccine, until we have an antiviral, no one can rest easy and assume that we're on the right path. With the dealing of COVID and the shutdown of the society, we've had a significant economic impact on our businesses, and the shutdown is not only that we shut down a business locally, but that we've had a nationwide shutdown. And in that nationwide shutdown, at various levels, travel has dropped off dramatically. The governor made some announcements today about people traveling into New York from some of the states that have a high COVID infection spread now. But some of those businesses are pivoted on travel. One of them is the hotel business, an industry that I know very well from having been involved in it for many years in the private sector. There was an announcement today that the Ritz-Carlton right here in downtown White Plains, a luxury hotel that opened a number of years ago. It was originally a project that was built with Brownsfield's remediation money. It involves a residential component, which continues on. But the hotel component, we're told now, is going to close in September and be closed permanently. Now, permanently will depend on the real estate realities of it. Knowing the industry as I do, as the market comes back, a future investor would look at the site, and as long as the site is maintained in a certain way, the opportunity for it to come back online is possible. But this is the second major facility closing we've had this year, Arrowwood being the first, and Arrowwood was a prominent hotel conference center over in Rye Brook, major facility in the county, and we know that other hotels are impacted by this. So we're not blind to the fact that even as we open up parts of the society, we have nail salons are open now, and tanning booths, and waxing, and so forth. The economy is more than just each of those different personal care areas or our ability to go out and go to restaurants. It involves some major real estate presence and investment, and this is why, frankly, we need a national approach to this pandemic. No one community can save the hospitality industry, the airline industry, the rental car industry, all of those that are related to travel and commerce and business. And that is why much of what we're going to discuss for the balance of this presentation does deal with economics. County of Westchester has an industrial development agency. It's a creation that is allowed for by the state of New York, and it allows a jurisdiction in creating an IDA, goes by the acronym. It allows that IDA to give out certain tax benefits that incentivize development. And the development is usually intended to provide permanent jobs. It's intended to stimulate construction work that will generate in the short-term economic activity, but also have a long-term effect. A number of municipalities in Westchester County also have IDAs. City of Yonkers, City of Mount Vernon, City of New Rochelle, Village of Portchester has an IDA, Town of Mount Pleasant does as well. Our IDA is chaired by our Director of Operations, Joan McDonald, and what she's going to talk about now is a program that we requested authority from in New York State, which they have just granted us. And that's the ability for the IDA on a temporary basis to issue grants and loans to small businesses and not-for-profit corporations that have been impacted by COVID-19. I sent a letter to the governor a couple of months ago requesting the authority to do that. Bridget Gibbons, our Director of Economic Development, brought the idea to our attention, and I think it's very important to know that when people on your team offer an idea, show innovative idea, that the credit belongs to them, not just to those of us who are the principals of this administration. Bridget suggested this. It's a perfectly good idea. We made the request to the governor, and the governor just made this a broad-based authority, not just for Westchester, but across the board. And so now I'm going to ask Joan McDonald, who heads the IDA, to explain a little bit about what this allows us to do and how that we think will help us as we try to restart the engine of some of the small businesses in Westchester County. Joan?
Thanks, George. As George mentioned, the IDA, primarily through its mission and its mandate under state law, provides incentives, sales tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax exemptions, low interest bonds for projects here in the county that are not covered by other municipal IDAs. As Bridget has mentioned, over the last 2 years, the IDA has funded over $1.2 billion in development projects in the county, and that has been terrific. As the county executive just mentioned, we're going to continue to watch how real estate development happens over the next months and years. But this is an exciting initiative. The IDA, until the governor signed the legislation last week, was precluded from giving out grants or loans to small businesses or businesses of any size. And through the Industrial Development Economic Association, which is the association around the state, and Bridget's advocacy. The legislature passed and the governor signed into law the authority for IDAs to establish loan and grant programs for businesses of less than 51 employees, businesses and not-for-profits. So that's an important component of it. And what that allows us to do is to issue grants of up to $10,000 to these businesses and not-for-profits for the use of personal protective equipment. The reopening task force that the county executive established, that is a high priority, and that is an issue that many of our small businesses are facing, the availability and the cost of personal protective equipment. So these grants can be for personal protective equipment and equipment for cleaning and other services. So that's the $10,000 program for grants. The other component is businesses and not-for-profits can apply for zero-interest loans up to $25,000. And those loans can be used for more broader purposes, for ongoing business expenses, rent, utilities, etc. So we are very excited about this. We are going to set aside from some of our proceeds within the IDA budget up to $500,000 for the program in totality. It will come to the IDA board on July 9th, and we are excited for kicking this initiative off and really providing much needed assistance to our small businesses and not-for-profits. And the IDA board thanks the county executive and Bridget for their advocacy for this program and getting it through the state legislature and having the governor sign it. Thanks.
Joan, thanks very much. I just want to highlight that as we deal with this pandemic, we've talked about the dual issues that have both come onto our table in such a significant way, dealing with the public health crisis and then also dealing with the economic crisis. And the economic crisis is a crisis for individuals. It's a crisis for businesses, both small businesses and large businesses. It's a crisis for government. And in another update, we'll talk a little bit about the county finances. We've touched on it a little bit. State finances are impacted by this. Local finances are as well, as is the county and what we're trying to do in the county. We've given you some updates to give you some idea of progress, and we're going to address a few more. In this particular case, we're talking about how we handle small businesses and trying to create another opportunity. But Bridget, who's been the architect of our efforts along this line, put together a group of volunteers well over a month and a half ago to help local businesses be able to apply for some of the federal programs that were made available, the EIDL program and the PPP program, all of the acronym that existed, and to try to help Westchester businesses, particularly small businesses that don't have the expertise in-house, be able to apply for these things and go forward. We have looked at a host of different other strategies within specific industry segments of what we can do to be helpful. And sometimes they're just sort of backyard practical things, the things we would do on a county road to help it open up so that the restaurants in a particular community could have outdoor dining, and we needed some sort of a waiver from the county to be able to provide that. So everybody's trying to figure out how do we make the best possible impact on these things. And so I compliment the efforts that Joan and the IDA board for this particular announcement, and then more generally the work in the economic development team, Bridget Gibbons, Deb Novick, Sherry Asher, who serves as our liaison to the local chambers of commerce. Many times the greatest help we can provide the local businesses to help them understand how to comply with the state protocols that have come down. They're fairly elaborate, fairly complicated. There's an attestation that a local business official has to have. The person who operates the beauty parlor or the barbershop has questions about what this means. Bridget and her team has been available to help answer those kinds of questions so that they wind up being in compliance with the state, and if they're in compliance with the state, then they can open. And that's what we want. We want the intelligent reopening of the society. We need the economic engine to start to move again. Somebody asks me, well, how come you're wearing a mask? I'm wearing a mask so that I don't transmit anything that I might have to you. If you stay healthy and I stay healthy, we go out into that economy and we help keep it moving. And that's why we do it. This is a matter of economic development. It's not ideology. And so I think in this particular case, again, it's a step in the right direction, and it's doing what we can do as a county government. Many folks, don't go through the tutorial course. What does a city, town, village do? What does the county do? What does the state do? The state has tremendous authority over all of the other governments. The county is a local government, but a very large local government, and we are tasked by the state to have certain authority, and being able to have an IDA is one of them, and having a Department of Health that certifies pools before pools get opened, that they meet the public health requirements are part of it. So hopefully all of these things mesh together in a positive light. I don't want Bridget and Joan to have to stand up here unnecessarily, so thank you very much, ladies, and feel free to return to your seats. I do want to mention one other matter that is of somewhat pressing situation. Yesterday we had a primary across Westchester County. There's primary all across the state. New York State's turn for the primary season. We had a number of countywide primaries, primarily the Democratic side of the aisle, but on the Republican side of the aisle too. And it is not lost on us that there were some great difficulties in voting. A number of areas for voting that were blocked were not sufficient to handle the demand. Long lines after the 9 o'clock hour. I saw it for myself. I had people report to me. I want to be sure that people understand that the county government, the county executive and the Board of Legislators do not control the election process. The election process, which goes through the County Board of Elections, is not following rules that the county government sets down, either the legislative or the executive branch, but they follow rules that are set down by the State Board of Elections. We're going to have dialogues about what's happened. There's still a significant vote count to be done on the absentee ballots. Those absentee ballots may be as much as 2/3 of all the ballots that will be cast in these elections. So whatever numbers you're seeing today are a portion, but not the totality of all the ones to be counted. And there's going to be a review of all of the activities that happened. For those people that were online for long periods of time, this is a mistake. This is a fault, and we're going to make sure, as much as we can influence how that process is done, that is corrected in time for a presidential election that's coming in November that will have a tremendous turnout across the board. But I hasten to measure that because in government, people are frustrated and they're angry and they want to direct that anger and they don't know where to direct it. I'm the guy on TV twice a day or once a day, and so I directed at him. You need to understand where the responsibility lies and where the authority lies. We don't have that authority, but we will try to be a responsible party to correct these problems in concert, working through the various other entities, the State Board of Elections particularly, and also our local Westchester County Board of Legislators, who have saw the same issues develop and understand that we have to have correction to this thing. This thing cannot ever be considered acceptable. It has to be corrected, and my expectation is it will be corrected. So we'll go to any questions that we have from the press. Catherine Chaffee is with us. Catherine, do we have any questions in the queue?
We do. Let me just get it up. Okay, we have one question from Samantha Crawford. She says, the governor announced yesterday that malls, gyms, and movie theaters won't be opening during phase 4. What impact will these businesses remaining closed have on the county budget?
Well, I don't know. The direct impact on the county budget will depend on each of those different industries differently. If the malls aren't open, then we're not getting the full economic benefit of the stores and the sales tax revenue, so that is a problem. The different businesses that remain closed help to depress, to some degree, the general, reestablishment of the economy on a full basis. The governor and the people around the governor are privy to information that I'm not privy to in terms of what is the best public health strategies. I recognize that different states have come to different conclusions because we sit next to Connecticut and we sit next to New Jersey. It's very easy to compare across the borderlines. The responsibility that I have is to try to help every business that can legally open in Westchester County, open. If there's any regulatory authority that the county has, that the county uses that regulatory authority properly but swiftly, so that a business is not held back. It is within the governor's authority through his executive orders to determine that some of these businesses would be closed. I can certainly understand, people who are accustomed to going to the gym every day. This is a frustration. I don't have to go to a nail salon to know that nail salons are part of a service that many people, women, consider to be important. And the fact that the nail salons are open is now the satisfaction of something that took a long time before it happened. In the same way that when the barbershops opened, I was able to get the haircut that I wanted after 12 weeks. But again, we don't control those decisions. Those decisions are made by the governor in concert with his senior people and the people that he consults with in the public health domain. Our job is to implement them as quickly as we can. And as far as I'm concerned, if we were to open up those facilities tomorrow, we would welcome it. And if those facilities were to be opened up and we have a public health responsibility to go in and survey them, we would do that swiftly, and we would do that in a way to help these businesses function. But these decisions are being made elsewhere, and we'll look to see what comes next.
Okay, that's the last question.
All right. If there are any other questions from our friends in the press, they're welcome to give Catherine Chaffee, our Director of Communications, a call, and we'll certainly be happy to speak off camera. We will reconvene again tomorrow at 2 o'clock for the update. Again, the statistics always lead the parade, so you know where we stand in the spread of the contagion. Again, it's a continual diminution, and we hope that numbers will continue to show tomorrow. We've tested a lot of people, and with each cycle of testing, we're seeing a smaller percentage of people testing positive. That is a good sign, but there's never a time to be cocky or self-confident. We have work to do, and we're going to try to do that work as effectively as we can. I'm George Latimer, County Executive. Thank you for tuning in. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.